Good morning, everyone. We are the Group 3. Today we will be tackling about the model of language policy by Spolsky. But before we're going to proceed with that, I'm going to first have a brief explanation about the author. Now, Bernard Spolsky was a professor emeritus in linguistics at Bar-Ilan University, which is in, I think it was in Jerusalem or Israel. Specializing in social linguistics, educational linguistics, and applied linguistics. He proposes the language policy which intended to achieve the planned language change in the society's group or system. Now, according to Spolsky, language policy is a concern of extensive ethical, political, and legal significance in authorities all over the world. And he considers language policy as having three components, which are the language beliefs, management, and practices. Now, language beliefs or ideologies refers to the reason why language was chosen. It is concerned with beliefs about the language and its use in the society, such as foreign languages that was known to a country but not spoken in the citizens. Example, we already know the English language, but not all Filipinos know how to use or to utilize the English language. Second is new language management. It is concerned with the specific efforts made by authorities to influence language practices. It is most likely occurs in most countries by the relevant governments, wherein they have more than one language within the community. Such as in the Philippines, we have more than language in our community. We have Bisaya. In the Visayas, we have Bisaya, we have Waray, Cebuano, Puholano, Ilocano, and many more. And lastly is the language practices. It is concerned with the everyday use of a specific language or language variety in a speech community. Therefore, in order for you to know or to master the language, you have to practice the language itself.
The 10 factors. Number 1, you have the speech community. A group of people who share not only common languages, but also specific norms, values, and cultural practices relating on how the language is used on communication. Second, we have the language community, focused on shared linguistic system on how they interact with others through these languages. Number 3, we have the English-speaking world. Refers to the international community of individuals who uses English as their primary or secondary languages for their everyday communication. Fourth, we have the language management. It's the purposeful and conscious effort undertaken by individuals, communities, and organizations or governments to govern, control, and influence the use of language in a specific context. Fifth, we have the ethnography speaking. It's a social linguistic study that focuses on examining the utilization of language in a specific social and cultural settings. Sixth, attrition. Refers to the erosion and diminishing of language skills or knowledge within an individual or a community as time passes. 7, we have the homeschool language law. Refers to the difference in language proficiency and language use between the home environment and the school environment, particularly among bilingual and multilingual students. 8, we have the language cultivation company. It's responsible for ensuring that the language used as virtual assistant is appropriate, respectful, and inclusive. It helps to prevent the generation of content that may be offensive, discriminatory, or harmful. 9, we have the heritage language. Refer to the languages that are passed down from generation to generation within a particular community or a family. Lastly, we have the medium instruction. This is our primary language used for teaching and learning an educational institution. It plays a significant role in shaping language, practices, and beliefs within a school community.
And next, we have the insights about language policy. So our insights about language policy is that the idea that individuals and communities have rights related to their language use, including the right to education in one's language and the right to use one's language in public areas or public spaces. Next, we have the recognition and promotion of multiple languages within a society, which can be a key aspect of inclusive language policy. And lastly, we have the role of language in identity formation and maintenance. So language is not just a means of communication, but also a key marker of identity, reflecting the individual's cultural, social, and political affiliations. And that's all for our insights about language policy.
So the next one is the four phases of language planning or how language policies are developed. So there are the language planning and the language policy. So language planning occurs in most countries by the relevant governments wherein they have more than one language within the community, while language policy is sometimes used as synonym to language planning. However, language policy refers to the more general linguistic, political, and social goals underlying the actual language planning process. So, when we say language planning, it is creating rules or how strategies or how language is being used, while language policy is the actual rules or law that are put in a place based on plans. So, for example, as an English major, teacher, ang mga teacher is itudluan ta unsaon pag-use sa language. It is a language planning sa kanang grammar, unsaon nato pag-use kanang accurately ang English language, while language policy is when our teacher kanang obliged to speak English language in order for us to apply the specific language what is being taught. So that is language policy. Thank you.
Okay, so let's proceed to the four stages of language planning by Hodgin 1966. So these are the four stages. First, selection, and then codification, implementation, and lastly, elaboration. Okay, so first, selection. Selection is the term used to refer to the choice of a language variety to fulfill certain functions in a given society. So in language planning, selection refers to the process of which languages will be used for a specific purposes within a society. So it means na kanang language sila that will be used depending on a certain context. For example, so in this decision-making process often involves determining the official languages, language instruction in schools, and language used in government, institutions, and other domains which language plays a crucial role. Okay, so for example, in the context of the Philippines, like official language, we have two official languages, right? We have Filipino language and English language. Okay, so for Filipino language, which is Tagalog, that will be used for to promote unity among the diverse linguistic groups in the Philippines. So it serves as our national language. And while English language serves as the language of institution, like in school, business, and in government. Okay, so another example. Language of education, like we also have Filipino language and English language as our medium of instruction in education. And also in language in media and communication, we also have Filipino and English language. As another aspect of language planning in the Philippines, like in television, radio, newspapers, and online platforms, use a mix of Filipino and English, and also other regional languages. And also in language in government and administration, The selection of languages in government and administration is crucial for effective governance. In the Philippines, government documents, laws, and official communications are often published in Filipino and English to ensure that information is understood by the majority of the population. And lastly, language in business and commerce. In the business sector, the selection of languages for communication and marketing plays a significant role in reaching a diverse consumer base. So, companies in the Philippines often use bilingual or multilingual approaches to cater to the linguistic preferences of their target market. Kung unsay murag demand bitaw nga language within the government or sa business. That's all.
The second stage of the language planning is decodification. It is the creation of a linguistic standard or norm for a selected linguistic code. It is the process of increasing the uniformity of language by making it more similar to another language in terms of its structural or linguistic features, and this is codification. It seeks to codify pronunciation and vocabulary in order to provide a set of standards for standard use. It is a neutral term which refers to the production of grammar, dictionaries, and other types of metalinguistic works. It may also result in the production of either descriptive or prescriptive works. So when we say descriptive works, these are it implies on how the word is used, while the prescriptive implies how the language should be used. Codification is divided into three stages. First, we have the graphicization, second, the grammaticalization, and third, the lexicalization. First, the graphicization, it is about developing a writing system. And this includes the orthography, or a set of conventions for writing a language, including norms of spelling, hyphenation, capitalization, word boundaries, emphasis, and punctuation. So when we say graphicization, this is all about the writing system and how the word should be structured in all of its form, just like the spelling, the hyphen, and all about including its orthography. The second one is grammaticalization. Grammaticalization means it is about deciding on rules or norms of grammar. This type has been also called bleaching, and such bleaching of lexical meaning is a very common source of grammatical items. Another example from English is the verb will. It is used to be a lexical verb meaning want, as in the Shakespearean form, what wilt thou, what do you want? Today, however, it has been reduced entirely to grammatical marker, also kind of future marker. But note the interesting difference of meaning between I'll wash the dishes, which implies that it is an offer. However, I'm going to wash the dishes is also a statement. Both of the sentences, something like serves the same purpose, but they can be understood in different ways. And they just differ in terms of the use of the grammar, and that is the grammaticalization. And it depends on how the person or the group of people understands a set of word or a language. Depends on the society they belong to. Third is the lexicalization. Lexicalization is identifying the vocabulary. And lexicalization is a process by which new words are added to the language. Elements such as emoji, crowdsourcing, or BFF are relatively recent examples of lexicalization in English. The entire vocabulary of the language can be seen as a result of this process. Some example of the lexicalization is, imagine a group of linguists studying a remote tribe's language. They observed that the tribe has a unique way of expressing the concept of friendship that doesn't directly translate into any single word in English. After extensive research and discussion with the tribe members, the linguists discovered that the concept is lexicalized in their language through a combination of words that encompasses loyalty, mutual support, and shared experiences. This process of lexicalization highlights how languages can express ideas in ways that may not have direct equivalent in other languages. Kay di ba kanang sa mga tribo kay naman sila kanang different way of using language kay different malagi ang culture anja kanang sa ilang pamagi po sa mga tribo lahi-lahi ang ilang way of expressing to others ingana. So sa example lang ang gihatag katong about sa friendship kanang ang mga normal people like us, especially those kanang what you tingog kanang nag-research ba about the tribe, the kanang indigenous people, kanang dili jud sila makasabot kung unsa ang ilang kanang paggamit ito sa ilang language. For example, unsa nila pag-express sa ilang friendship with others, nga na kay wa man ta kaibaw, depende ra man nila sila jud mismo ang nakaibaw. So in lexicalization, it identifies the vocabulary or the words being used by the certain or the particular group of people.
Third is implementation or acceptance. Promoting of the decisions made in the stages of selection and codification, which can include marketing, strategy, production of books, pamphlets, newspapers, and textbooks, using the new codified standard. Implementation by Hugen focuses on putting language policy theories into practice effectively. Example is the implementation of bilingual education programs in school. These programs aim to provide students with opportunities to learn and develop proficiency in two languages, promoting linguistic diversity and cultural understanding. Another example is the development of language assessment tools that evaluate language proficiency in multilingual settings. Thank you.
The last stage of language planning is elaboration. It refers to the terminology and stylistic development of a codified language to meet the communicative demands of modern life and technology. Its main area is the production and dissemination of new terms. So elaboration is the phase where the language is further developed to meet the modern needs of its speakers. New words and terms are created to express new concepts and ideas. Moreover, it involves the development of a modern technical and scientific vocabulary. An example of the elaboration are, first is creation of the new words. So this is one of the most common forms of language elaboration. For example, with the advent of the internet and technology, English has seen the introduction of new words such as email, blog, hashtag, and selfie. Another example is semantic shift or extension. This refers to the process where the meaning of an existing word is extended to include new meaning. For example, the word mouse in English was originally only a small rodent, but with the advent of computer technology, it now also refers to a device used to control the cursor of a computer screen. That's all.
Next, we have the two major levels of language planning. So we have two major levels, which are the status planning and the corpus planning. So first, we have the status planning. Status planning typically refers to the deliberate efforts by a government or other authority to establish and maintain the status of a particular language or dialect within a society. So, status planning is about deciding the role and the prestige of the language in a society. This includes things like deciding which language to use in school, government, media, and whether a language should have official status. So, example, in the Philippines, we have the Filipino and English as our official language. And in school, we have in college, we have the English as our official language. Kaya since English naman dyan ang maging may gamit sa mga media of instruction. While so sa primary siguro o sa secondary, we have the Filipino and the English language as language used in media of instruction. And of course, in media platform, we have English. Pero naman po yung media platform, mga announcement kay Tagalog, pero much more in English, yung siya, like, kung yung makita mo sa mga signage, ganyan kay mga Englishman. So yeah, so status planning kay mo kung sa official status or official language ana ng context.
The next level of the language planning is the purpose planning. It is involved with creating standards for a language, such as spelling and grammar, or to create dictionaries. It refers to changes or standardization of certain elements of a language. Example, the lexicon, the orthography. And this level includes codification and elaboration. And in the purpose planning, it is done by the social linguists or the linguists in general. In the status planning, the government consciously made the efforts to achieve or to establish and maintain the status of a particular language in a particular society or within a society. However, in the purpose planning, creating standards for language such as spelling and grammar or to create dictionaries are applied. So, para sa status planning, diha pa mo pa murag ang pag-start pa na or ang pag-build pa sa or something like maintain or pagkuhan sa language within society. However, the purpose planning, ning-evolve na siya or ning-kuhan na siya into the next level in which i-apply na diha ang standards na magamit sa language nga in a particular society, as well as ang spelling or ang grammar o ang pag-create of dictionary kay para kanang kung sa ang kaya bitaw na dyan tayo mga unfamiliar words bitaw nga panahibawaan lagi ang familiar ganyan dyan. Kanang some of us would think na, masay pasabot ani kay karon pa ko naka-encounter, nga na. So, through dictionaries, we can be able to know its meaning, nga na kay not all of us have the access to internet. So, since dictionary kay maka-make use naman po tayo gani, so, nag-create sila dictionaries para na po tayo magamit na makasabot sa kanang languages sa uban or words na unfamiliar para nato. So, mao na ang purpose sa purpose planning.